Hello, what's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and for today's video I'll be talking about the Grand Mafia, and I'll be giving you an overview of the Governor's War map called Stained in Red. And the Governor's War map Stained in Red is a very different Governor's War map for many reasons. The first reason is you do not build like faction towers. You have to defeat an army in the faction tower, something like this, a guard post, and when you bring the durability of the guard post down to 0 and occupy it for another 10 minutes, you'll be able to convert it into a faction tower. So there are good and bad things about this gameplay. So having said that, the gameplay is a lot slower because you have to destroy towers first before you can build it, and demolishing towers usually take a longer time than constructing towers. So this map takes about 2 to 3 times longer to move your faction territory into the Governor's War map. So this is one of the things that is very different. The second thing that is different about this map is something called a Declaration of War. And for other like Governor's War map, there is just a neutral building in the middle, but for Stained in Red, there are different like bases and hubs right in the neutral area itself. So in this neutral area itself, there is 2 different kinds of buildings. So the first building is the armed hub, and the second building is the operations base. How this works is an entirely new concept, and when you declare a war, you would be using like some sort of like token. As you can see, declaration token refreshes every 8 hours, and you can store a maximum of 20. So these like items are very valuable, and you do not want to keep declaring war and losing battles because you would then be able to obtain lesser of these neutral buildings. And how this works is that when you declare a war, you can like set it for like 1 hour, like depending how or when you want the battle to begin. The quicker is 1 hour. Right before the battle begins, you're able to like prepare how you want to attack the neutral building and also defend it, depending on if you're attacking or defending. So for attacking, it is very simple. During the first hour, basically like during the war declaration time, you're able to store units inside this operations base, and there will be 2 different kind of troops that you are able to store. First is the attacking troops, and second is the defending troops. The defending troops wise, it doesn't really matter if you are the only one that is competing for this neutral building, but if there's other factions that is coming to attack you or commonly attacked areas of this map, is obviously the checkpoints. There will be people declaring war and you will have a battle. But to make it simple, the first step is, if you are the only faction that's attacking it, your objective is to store some people in the armed hub, and also have units or troop lines, crew sizes inside this operation base to attack the neutral building. And the more units you have, the more crew size, the more people are joining this, then there will be more damage that will be dealt to the neutral building. And once the declaration of war ends, this is a little bit complicated, so there'll be a 1 hour of waiting. Usually people will declare for 1 hour, and you're able to fill this operation base with attacking troops. So when this countdown ends, all of the units inside the operation base which are going to attack will move to the neutral base, and from then on the operational base will just the defensive like crews inside the operation base. And if you want to attack the neutral building, you can directly attack this neutral building by sending troops to it. Things will be more complicated if you are either defending, attacking, or there are multiple factions involved in this single neutral building. And if you are a person that's defending your neutral building, during the declaration of war itself, the waiting time when the actual battle begins, you're able to store some of your units inside the neutral building itself to prevent like enemies from attacking once the declaration of war ends and the battle begins. And also you're able to attack the operation base, which is why there is like the defensive crew inside here. And what it means if you lose this operation base is that you're able to attack the armed hub, and once this armed hub is destroyed, basically the faction that's attacking the neutral building will be unable to attack, or at least that is what the theory is. Because if you are a very strong faction, all you need to do is just occupy this neutral building to prevent your enemy forces from occupying it. And if your enemy forces are not occupying this neutral building, it will not damage the neutral building at all. So that is in simple terms. So this is one of the things that is very complicated, really different playing style. Other reason why this governance wall is a little bit more complicated is that you'll be introduced to new materials called steel, and yeah, you can only obtain this like resource through the faction steel mill. There are no like faction cargo supplies or whatever that you're able to rob on this map itself, so your faction territory must be within this like faction steel mill for you to obtain these resources, and it is very valuable because without this you're unable to build more towers, which in turn makes it much more difficult to expand your territory. So this is one of the governance wall map where you can see there's not a lot of territories for a lot of people, very few. You have to build a lot of faction strongholds to gain access to different territories. Some of the methods that people use to save up on resources is to demolish their own faction towers, because if you have fewer than 30 faction towers, when you demolish this faction tower, every single resources spent will be 100% returned to your faction resource, so you will not lose any like steel destroying towers. Alright, so that is one big component of this new governance wall map explained. The second component, a really interesting thing about this governance wall map, is called professions. I've decided to redo my explanation on the professions. So overall for professions, there are 3 different kinds of professions. So as you can see, there's the engineering specialist, the intel hunter, and the strategic advisor. So an overview of these 3 professions are basically, for the engineering specialists, what they do is that they mainly like build and demolish towers, so they have the fastest building speed, construction speed, and demolition speed. So that is what most of the players should be, because there's a lot of destroying and building towers for this governance wall. So the second one is intel hunter, and what intel hunter basically does is they replenish bounties for your faction members. They give out commission bounties and give out commission buffs, and I also explain how you get these buffs later on. And the last one would be strategic advisor, and all in all, this is the most easiest to explain. They are basically like the combat people, the raid leaders. Before I dive into each of the pros and cons of each profession, I want to let you know how this profession works and how do you get to level up these professions. Over at this view profession, you can see these are all the skills for the individual professions, and as you can see, the max level for professions is level 61. So over here you can get a glimpse of how a maxed out level 61 profession will look like. You're unable to max out every single like item on the skill list, just level up which skills that matter the most. And to level up your profession, there are a couple of ways, but the main way that you will be upgrading your profession at the beginning of the governance wall is through intel posts. And what intel post does is that every day you are able to obtain a random amount of intel posts through these 4 methods: robbing resources, challenging kingpin, spending action points, and destroying police station. Note that for spending action points, it only applies to casinos and scavenger hunts that basically sends out an attacking crew, and not those like scouting or kingpin related scavenger hunts. And also for police station, if your daily reward for police station is used up, you will also not be able to obtain any more intel items, so do take note of that. And what it does is that there are 3 different crates that you can get: the rare, elite, and grand. Obviously for the grand intel case, you'll get a lot of profession experience. Let me just show you an example. So when you collected at least one of each of these intel numbers, 1 to 7, you're able to exchange it. How you can get more pieces is through exchanging or trading. So basically over here you can trade what you want to get and what you want to receive, and also over the faction trades you can see who wants what kind of intel pieces, and you can trade in order to be able to get more of these crates to get more professional experience. However, there's a limit to how many you can create crates a day, and you can see it is out of 10. So once these chances are used up, you will have to wait another 12 hours, which is represented by these snakes. As mentioned before, there are the profession called the intel hunters, and for intel hunters they are able to give you this thing called intel contract, and for intel contracts you are able to obtain the additional operations that are needed for you to complete more of these like intel pieces, combining them together and get more crate as rewards. And secondly, there are something called the resource depot, and what these are is basically over here this profession skill. If you are engineering specialist, you are able to summon an engineering depot, and this can be like resources, or it can be profession experience resources. There are definitely depots that are professional experience. I can see 75,000 for a level 7 profession depot, and this would be useless for most of the Governance War season because everybody would have a maxed out profession level of 61. Yeah, so this is how you basically level your profession. And yeah, basically the pros of engineering specialist is that you're able to summon these like depots, and it is very valuable for these like profession depots to be around in the early game of this Governance War. But if you're lucky, you're also able to get diamond depots similar to those like a faction jeweler, 50 million diamonds. But for the diamond depots itself, you only obtain like 15 million of these diamonds, but still a pretty good amount of diamonds inside. So these are basically the main pros for the engineering specialist. The cons is only that engineering specialist doesn't give you healing capacity boost and healing speed boost, and also doesn't really give you a lot of combat buffs. Before I move on to Intel Hunters, you are also able to obtain something called the engineering toolbox if you are an engineering specialist. So what this means is that, so over here you can see that I've gotten a few of these engineering toolbox, and inside this toolbox itself there are rewards that you can obtain. Not big rewards, but still quite okay along the Governance War journey. And as you can see, this is basically the rare engineering toolbox toolkit rewards. As you go further and further into the Governance War, the issue with this is that you maxed out your profession level a long time ago, and you are unable to obtain any rewards from this like leftover professional experience because I'm unable to use it, and there's no like compensation, unlike the Governance War Land of Oil where you are reimbursed accordingly to some of those resources that you are unable to carry forward back to your city map. But for staying in raid, so far there's not been any plan that you'll be obtaining any like compensation for the rewards that you have gained. So hopefully this would change in the future. Yeah, so once that is explained, now let's move on to the next profession, which is Intel Hunter. As you have seen, some of the profession specialties are different, and the main difference are the 3rd, 5th and the 7th kind of like level of the specialties that is different. So basically the 1, 2, 3, and then the 5th and then the 7th. As you can see, for Intel Hunters, they have buffs on hospital related capacity and speed. So for Intel Hunter, it is mainly for you to give commission bounties to your fellow faction members, and also you are able to use like the marked bounty, basically get like intel contracts to help you gain additional operations when you want to attempt to complete more of those intel pieces, and also give yourself more like bounty buffs, have a chance to get more bounty buffs. And the chances of obtaining like these like level 1 to 5 intel contracts or the different kind of bounty chances is all listed in the information here, the skill info. And for commission bounty, you will also get something similar or equivalent to the engineering toolkit. And how you get this is basically just giving commission bounties daily to your faction members, and you can only give it to the engineering specialist or the strategic advisor. Yeah, so with this explained, a recommended strategy that your faction should take is to have exactly 17 intel hunters, because factoring they are able to give 5 commission bounties daily and unable to give to another intel hunter. With a faction total member of 100, you would have all of your intel hunters being able to give 5 commission bounties, except for 2 intel hunters that is giving only 4 commission bounties. So how I do this math is basically 17 times 5, which is equal to 102. And the pros of intel hunters is basically you're able to get all of these like bounty buffs and able to always replenish your operations for intel posts. However, the cons is that you cannot really have many of these in the faction, and they also don't have combat buffs. And lastly, let's touch on the profession of the strategic advisor. This is the most straightforward. Basically, it's a combat specific profession, and some of the skills is basically to increase your crew attack 100%, which is insane, increasing movement speed to raiding police stations. Another thing that is good is that casualty reduction, quick recovery, so your enforcers can fight again. Your very strong enforcers can be reused quickly to obtain the neutral building or to occupy the neutral building, and basically combat buffs. Also, one thing before I end is that the engineering is really the best choice, or really should be the majority of your faction members, because of the building and the demolition, and also prevents enemies from really like destroying your towers quickly because of this like Tinker's Touch. And let me just have you see how it works. Buff up the guard post by clicking this fortifying button, and when you use it, voila, you have additional tower health, which would deter enemies from attacking you, or either that or they have to use more bombs to destroy this tower. So as this is it for the very long explanation on profession, and I hope I've given you insights and am very clear on the information given to you. So other than that, the other similar things about this Governor's War map are the different tasks that you do, like the Massacre Day, robbing resources, all those are the same. And arsenals, the same. And also like the group warfare, where you select a time zone and you will be able to participate in it, similar to the Blackstone Bay for the Blood Treaty map. Also not forgetting that there's a new update, so at every single Governor's War map, if it is during the MD day, there will be this event called the Underworld Dominance, and you're able to obtain rewards if you complete tasks, and this task refreshes every 6 hours. So if you first place, you're able to get these rewards, but honestly, it is not very enticing, and this is a way where developers get you to spend more of your resources. And yeah, I don't think that this spending is very good, because the rewards are quite pathetic. So lastly, during the MD day, unlike many other maps where you are able to attack towers where you are not connected with, for example like attacking this guard post, you can just attack anywhere during MD. But for Stained in Red, you can only attack faction towers that is connected to your territory. So example, we have this checkpoint captured, and you're only able to attack anything like this guard post base, anything surrounding this checkpoint. However, if the faction tower is not connected to your territory, even if it is during the MD day, you are unable to attack it. And secondly, towers do not enter any burn state at all, so this makes things a lot more complicated, because you're unable to perform the cat and mouse raid where you attack a tower and retreat. So that is a thing that is really tough about this map, and it will take a long time to just move forward and conquer your enemy's territory. However, one thing that you can attack without connecting to your territory is the faction stronghold. So we are able to attack the faction sub stronghold or faction stronghold, and this faction stronghold will also be able to enter the burning state like any other Governor's War map. So what do I think about this Stained in Red Governor's War map? I think this map is really slow, and it is quite boring. I have spent the least amount of time playing this Governor's War map because it is so slow that I kind of like lost track and lost interest for this map. However, there are also like pros to this map, and if you are a faction that likes it chill, you don't want to rush to a Governor's War map, you don't want to like be attacked consistently, this is a pretty good map to be in, because the movement and the expansion of faction territories is really slow. There will be a lot of time for you to rob resources and just play the game, enjoy the game as it is. And also it is very difficult to be annihilated by another faction unless the faction is very strong, because there's no burning state, so you can always reconstruct your tower again as long as you're able to kick off your enemies like raid in your tower itself. So yes, with this, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I've given you a very nice overview on this new Governor's War map, Stained in Red. And if you do enjoy my video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys again real soon for my next video.